Hello, class. This is Mr. Creighton, and what I'm going to talk to you guys about is objective design in artwork. So, objective means that it represents something. So, you see objective artwork and design on book covers, magazine covers, a video game cover, article illustrations, ads, and all over the place. So you always see these images that represent something and communicate something, and that's what we're really going to get into. So it's different from what we did last week. Last week was not objective, so you just took shapes and space and colors and arranged them to make them successful. So you having a focal point, having balance, and things like that, which are art principles. So if you look at this cover of Giannis, who's currently playing OKC right now, this is a really good example of successful design. So look at these four questions. So I'm just going to read them. I'm going to have you think about them for a second as to why this cover works. And then we're really going to dive into how this applies to you during this week. So the first question is, what is the focal point of this image? And clearly you can tell that it's Giannis. And the reason being is the image of Giannis has the most contrast. It's also the largest, which makes it the easiest to focus on. The second question is, what type of composition is the image? Symmetrical, meaning centered, or asymmetrical, off-centered? Well, it's off-centered. If you put a line in the middle and look closely, you can tell there's more weight or objects on the left side. So you can see the Pistons guy in the background. You can see the word Greek and the little cream bar around it. So his image is off-center where there's more weight or space being used on the left side. And one reason for that, what we're going to talk about in this presentation, is traditionally if you have multiple elements or a lot of things going on in your image, it helps you make it off-centered because it allows you to have more space to spread things out. And also if you have objects that are moving, shifting them to the side helps create a greater sense of movement instead of just cramming it all in the middle. The third question is, does the design have a sense of unity? That means, do the elements, so colors, shapes, lines, all fit together? And that would be, yeah, it does have a sense of unity. So if you look at the cream color in Sports Illustrated and also the bar around Greek, you see the same thing in the jersey of the Bucks players. You see the green pop up in the word Greek, but also in the Bucks jerseys. And then also you see white, color white in the jerseys of the Bucks players, the Pistons players, and also the various text that pop up in that design. So with that being said, because you can tell what it is, it fits together, it's arranged in a logical way, it's successful. So not only can you easily see what everything is, it gets the point across. The point is to represent Giannis and the Bucks, who are playing well, and you can see that in the color scheme they use, but also in the image that they have of Giannis. So that's what we're going to focus on this week. Again, is how we can take these designs, make them successful, and also communicate what you want to communicate. So right away, we're going to focus on movie poster design. So expression in design, movie posters. So you guys are going to create an idea and you're going to represent that idea in a movie poster. So like every other presentation, I'll have you guys write down what's in bold. So I'll have you write down the yellow terms. So the terms that are created in the yellow text, that's what you'll write down. So the first term to write down today is design. And you've heard me say the word design a lot of times, but I really haven't defined it for you. And design is to plan and create. So design is to plan and create artistically or organize with a purpose. Design is to plan and create artistically or organize with a purpose. If you look at these two images, which I want to break down in a second, those are great examples of what design is. So what is the purpose of this project? And that's really what we're going to talk about in order to get this thing started. Well, here's the deal. Artwork can communicate a message, a concept, or tell a story. It can do all these things. It can express something and communicate something. And you're going to take the idea of what you know about effective design. So the idea of having a clear focal point and balance so it seems finished. The idea of having contrast so we can see the image and then apply it to an image that expresses and communicates. So even if I took off the text of Black Panther or I took off the text of Brave, if I remove those words, you can still easily see the images. They are arranged in an effective way with enough contrast and also enough size for the focal points that you can easily see what they are and what they communicate. And that's really the key. So how can we do this? Well, we got to keep it simple. So the term to write down for this slide is simplicity. Simplicity is clear, plain, and not complicated. Simplicity is clear, plain, and not complicated. The class project, so your third product of the year, is designing a minimalist poster. It's kind of a mouthful, but minimalism describes a movement in art where the work focuses on the essential parts of a subject and not the non-essential forms and details. So a really good example is this Avengers poster on the left side. So the official Avengers poster is top left, so you can see who the actors and actresses are. You can see all the details in the building, in their clothing. And if you compare the image below, that's minimalism. So you can still tell that there's buildings. You can still tell that there's an alien invasion. You can tell who the figures are. So there's enough detail in the shapes or silhouettes, that is, that you can see who they are. And you can also read the text. So we have a clear focal point and we have balance. And the poster still communicates what it needs to communicate. It's successful, but it's done in a much more simple way. And the reason why is you guys will still have to draw shapes on color and then cut out those shapes. So you want to make it as simple as possible in regards to the look and feel of your poster, so it's easier to put together and still make successful and still communicate what you need to communicate. Next term is creativity. So we're going to talk about expression a little bit and creativity. Creativity is the use of imagination or original ideas. Creativity is the use of imagination or original ideas. So the movie poster you make, it's got to be original. Your movie poster design must be original. It's your goal to use creativity to help you do that. So your idea, it can't already exist. These examples on the right side are from one of my favorite movies of all time, The Dark Knight. It's an excellent film, and even though I'm a fan of Batman, that film franchise, I cannot make, a sequel to that franchise. The movie you make must be original in its design, so it can't already exist. So let's say if you're a fan of the Avenger films or any other film franchise, you cannot make a sequel to it. You can't make a prequel. You can't make something that is just like it. You can be influenced by those things. So if you have trouble coming up with an idea, take your interests, things you like to do or things you like to watch, and build around that. Or if you have an idea for a movie you would like to see made, build around that. So, for example, 2 years ago, I had a girl who was a big fan of the movie Love and Basketball. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with that. She could not make that because it already exists, but she made something that was similar. So she made a movie called Love and Volleyball. She loves to play volleyball. She also loves that movie. So her design represented that idea. So Love and Volleyball. That's perfectly fine. You're taking influences from something and it's still original. So really, guys, again, use your interest, use your imagination, help give you a good idea for a poster. So you can use any genre too. So sports, romance, fantasy, horror, science fiction, superheroes, children's cartoon, etc. It doesn't matter as long as it's appropriate for school and as long as you can communicate effectively. So as long as you can make a good design out of it, you're good to go. And that's really what it's all about. So movie posters are informative. Next term to write down is expression. Expression is representation or communication through art and design. Expression is representation or communication through art and design. So once you have your idea, you need to express it and communicate it well, because you can have a great idea and communicate it really poorly. We don't want that. So movie posters typically have a couple of things. Every movie poster has a couple of things. So we want to combine words because you need a title. We need to know what the movie's called, and images. Every movie poster has an image that represents the movie to effectively convey the idea of your movie. So your poster must include these three things: a title, the name of the movie, a focal point, the image we're looking at, and a release date, the day this thing comes out. So again, you must have three things: a title, focal point, and release date. If you look at the image, the poster to the left for La La Land and also Creed, the title actually got cut off for Creed in this slide, but they all have clear information and they all have a title. And so a lot of times a movie will have a tagline, which is kind of like a catchphrase to represent the movie. La La Land has one of those instead of the focal point, instead of the release date. But the key is that the information on your poster helps communicate your movie idea effectively. So that's the best thing you can do, is to make it effective so we know what the movie is. But what is the best way to arrange all these things? Well, we got to use that visual hierarchy. You heard me talk about this last week. So there's a couple ways you can make your poster design effective and make things stand out. One is called the Z principle. So if you ever look at the cover of a book or a poster, magazine, they all use a Z principle. All that means, guys, is that make your poster easy to read. Typically, at least in the US and Western culture, we read from left to right and then top to bottom. So it helps to place your text above, the focal point in the middle, and the release date at the bottom. That's not a requirement, like if you look at that Thor poster, but traditionally that's an easy way to arrange it because we know a text, the title is going to be near the top. Another way to do that is through contrast. So in order to make something stand out, make it the most bold, make it the most different. And that's where contrast comes in. So the difference between colors or the difference between values. Also size. Your focal point is the most important thing. That image is the most important thing. It should be much larger than the title and much larger than the release date. And still make it stand out so that way it's clear. And we do that through contrast and size. So the principle, contrast, and size are an easy way to make sure that we can easily see what's going on. The Rocky poster is a great example of that. If you look at Rocky, the actual word, it leads you to Rocky, who's at the top of the steps. It zigzags back down to the bottom of the steps in his shadow, and then off to the bottom right where the actual release date is. So it literally makes a zigzag Z. And the Thor poster, which reads from top to bottom, has the focal point is the largest, the title a little bit smaller, and then all the smaller text, which is less important, at the bottom. So it still flows and works. So here's the deal, guys. You don't need to write these terms down because you already have them in your sketchbook. But once you have your idea, because you need to come up with the idea first, and the information to represent the idea, so the title, the focal point, and the release date, how are you going to set this thing up? Well, there's one of two ways. As we know, designs are typically symmetrical, which is centered, with the left and right side being even, or asymmetrical, which is off-centered, and you're spreading things throughout. Well, a symmetrical design works best when you have one major focal point to look at. So like in the Footloose example, bottom left, we really just have this gigantic foot. So for those of you familiar with it, it's about this town where I believe like dancing is outlawed. And so it's this example is just this really big focal point. That's the only thing we need to focus on. So the image in the middle of Harry Potter and the one far right of Little Red Riding Hood are asymmetrical because there are multiple elements. So there's multiple shapes in these posters, and spreading them out works best. If you didn't spread them out, well, first of all, you'd have too much crammed in the middle and be hard to look at. But also, for example, the Little Red Riding Hood poster works really well because she is on the right side and it appears like she's moving to the right through the woods. And if you look even closer, you can see a hand of the wolf on the left side. So she's actually moving away from that. So no matter if you choose a symmetrical design or asymmetrical design, you still need to be balanced. So we still need to use most of the space in order to make this feel complete. And you look at all three posters, they use the majority of the space in order to complete them. So really, every good poster should communicate clearly. And we communicate it clearly through contrast, the size of the focal point in text, and also how we balance things out and arrange them. But the easiest thing to do that, again, is through a visual hierarchy. So make something bold and use the contrast to make it stand out. If you look at these RoboCop posters, I'm gonna basically let you take a look at what good design is and what bad design is. Just take a look at these and think to yourself, which of these are designed well? And which of these are designed poorly? So take a second, think about that. Well, okay. So about 5 seconds. Okay, most definitely what I would suggest is that the bottom left has the worst design. It's almost too simple in nature. If you were to cover up RoboCop and take a look at his visor, you would have no idea what that is. That could be a skateboard or snowboard on the cement next to a dirt road or sand. It could be a book laying on the ground. You have no idea what that is because there's not enough detail. We want things to be minimalistic and simple, but not that simple where the focal point is not clear. If you can't tell what the focal point is, that's a problem. So we need enough clarity that you represent what your poster is about, and that's the purpose of the movie poster. I would say the image or the images in the middle, so in that top row, work really well. So the one that says dead or alive, you're coming with me, and also the one that says RoboCop with the date that says 8/14/2010. Not only can you tell who that isn't as the focal point, so again, that image is very clear. The information works really well in the one that says RoboCop with the date because the focal point is large, it has enough contrast compared to the background. The text is large enough to see, but not as large as the focal point. because for a visual hierarchy, you need to make things that are the most important stand out the most, and the focal point is the most important. And then even smaller is the release date, because that's less important. So we see RoboCop, the focal point, we see RoboCop, the text, and then the release date right above it. So control what we see and how we see it is the key there. So here's the deal. So now that you know what a good poster or image should have in order to make it successful. So again, a visual hierarchy, so make us see things that are most important first. Make sure your design is clean and clear by using contrast, size, and then also balance. I'm going to have you guys plan out your poster. So it's time to plan your poster with the information you just learned. So you're going to create an idea. So you're going to create an idea and a title to represent that idea, also the release date. But most importantly, you're going to create an idea and a title to represent that idea. And then secondly, you're going to create 2 poster design sketches for your one idea. So if you were to turn your sketchbook sideways or just a sheet of paper, draw a line in the middle, you're going to plan out 2 design sketches. So a sketch is a way for you to essentially come up with a look of what the poster should look like, but also how you want to arrange things. So where do you want to put your title? Where do you want to put your focal point? How do you want to set this up in a way that will make it successful? How are you going to communicate what your poster is about? The reason why you create 2 is because not only is your first idea not always the best, but think about it like this. You can play around with how you want to position the focal point. You can try it zoomed in. You can try it zoomed out. You can try it with one major element to look at and make it symmetrical. You could try it with multiple things in your image and make it asymmetrical. You could also try to position things in different areas on the paper. So you create 2 sketches because your first idea isn't always the best, but also it's good to play around with how things look so that we can see what does look the best overall for your idea, because the key is you want to communicate it as clearly as you can in order to make your poster successful. Either way, however you arrange it, keep your idea original. So remember that it cannot already exist. You cannot do a Rocky movie or a Predator movie, Karate Kid, Aliens. I don't care what it is. You can't do it if it already exists. You can do something similar, but you can't do that. And also make it interesting. So give us a cool looking image. So we'd want to see the movie. And lastly, have fun with it. This is a really cool product, guys. It's a chance for you to be expressive and creative because that's part of being in an art class. So enjoy it. Think about something you would actually want to do. Think about a movie you would actually want to see made. It's planning time.